But now we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay, for the technical difficulties. If you can see me, if you can hear me, whatever platform you're on, please leave me a quick like or send me a quick message so we can see that the technical difficulties have ended. Right? That is good. I'll open up the thing here. I can see your chat. All is good. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk about a thing that has been a thing for a long time. It is, of course, artificial intelligence and how that plays into your future, how that impacts software engineering. I have prepared a little slideshow for you as well. But first, let me know if you can actually hear and see me. And if then, let's also see that our presentation works. Yeah, okay, that looks good. We'll jump right in. Also, let me know where you're here, where you're from. We're here in Vienna today, and let me do it with your comments. Let me know that you're hyped, and let's get the algorithm up so more people can see that. Right? Today, we will talk about something. Yeah, I mean at that point we can't ignore it. It's 2025. And AI is taking over the world. Or is it? But what we can definitely say is that it is becoming a big part of our day-to-day life. And at this point, it's now the time that we have a proper look at how it can be useful for programmers and how it can be useful for people that are learning to become programmers. I see a few people joining here. So the question to you here is, do you already use AI tools to code or to learn how to code? Put it in the chat right now, so we can have a little discussion. Again, it's a live occurrence here. And when you put that message down, let me know what tool you're using, how you're using it, what you're using it for, what are your experiences so far. Let me know that in the chat. Let's have a little conversation going here. A question that I always ask people at this point is also, does it boost your confidence? Do you feel like, hey, I'm kind of coding a little bit, and now with the help of AI, I've become better, so I'm more confident? Or are you a bit scared that shit, now it might be even harder to land an entry-level job if the AI can already do that job for me? I'm always curious how the feelings are. Let me know. Today we'll tackle two things, and first of all we'll just look at the current technologies, what it even is, how it works, because it's always a little mystery if you're not really involved in the whole thing. Because if you know how it works, and if you understand what you're actually working with, then you can get more of it. So, on the other hand, second thing, I'll show you today what the best ways are to use things like ChatGPT or Copilot or Cursor or DeepSeek or whatever iteration you come across, because to get the most out of it, you need some strategies. That's really the key ingredient. We're not at the point where you can just say, hey, ChatGPT, code me a new Facebook and it will just do that for you. And of course, I mentioned the little presentation here. I want to gather some examples, but you know what happens? What happened here is, of course, this ChatGPT was down. Well, that's not great. That's not great at all. So the first learning here, obviously, should be that you can't really rely on that. If you start to outsource your thinking to an external service and that service goes away, then you're cooked. And as it is, like Murphy's Law, that will happen exactly at that point when you need it the most. But that doesn't stop us. Forget about the slides. I'll show you how to work with those tools so you get ahead of the curve. And now that doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner, a complete noob, If you are in a junior role, if you are in a senior role, if you have worked with code, if you actually understand how those large language models work, then you can use it to your benefit. And it's all happy days. An important note here. The whole AI thing is a little bit overblown. It's a buzzword. It's getting thrown around in all kinds of places. Things are being promised and have been promised now for, like, when did it start? Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago. Uh, that are just marketing, that are just avenues for startups or whatever to generate some capital. It is a relatively new field. Like, that's not a new field, right? It has been around for a long time, but in the public, it's a kind of new field. Things are changing, things are happening, and there is some calculated randomness to it. We'll talk about that. But now it's time to pay close attention, because if you do this the wrong way, if you approach it the wrong way, you'll get negative effects, and those negative effects will compound, and then you're pissing in your own pool. So don't do that. Listen to me. We've been fucking around with this for a long time. What I present you here today is the current state of affairs. We'll talk about what I found out, what my coaches found out, what my colleagues found out. So those are all people that have been programming, that are senior developers for many, many years, many decades even, so more than 10 or 20 years. And we'll dive right into that. Here is one important thing. So just to get the frame right, there are many things that are called AI and machine learning, right? Nowadays, everything gets like this AI sticker. Recently, I don't know if you saw my post there, I saw a toothbrush with an AI sticker, so we're getting into ridiculous territory now. And many of those things, or many things that have been called artificial intelligence back in the day, are not labeled that way anymore, because we just got accustomed to it, right? So there are many things, like a chess game, computer chess player would be labeled AI maybe 20 years ago, even if it's a procedural thing. Now what we usually mean are neural networks and large language models most of the time, and transformer models that generate images, but we'll get into the details. So one thing to be very aware of, it's very overhyped, and it's of course buzzword and all that, and the goalpost that moves every year. So nowadays, when people are talking about AI, usually we're talking about specifically some kind of generative AI, what I mentioned, large language models, and we'll specifically talk about that because that's the most important one for software engineering, because those things produce code. If you ask them nicely, they will give you some code. So that's kind of interesting as a software engineer, obviously. So we'll talk into that. So in one sentence, it takes some input and generates additional information based on that initial input. Now that might be text or that might be images. So far so good. You already know that. But the first important thing is that you really need to get into your head, and it's hard because I get it. If you talk to ChatGPT, it's amazing, right? But LLMs are not smart, right? You need to understand this. They cannot think. They don't understand. They don't reason, even if you have a little reason checkmark nowadays. And they don't understand context. What is happening here is that it gives the impression that it does. So there is a real distinction to be made here. You need to view that situation from that standpoint, because if you then assume that those things actually behave or think like a human being, you're using it the wrong way and you're getting off track. So what it is a highly optimized statistical system to generate plausible text. I'll repeat it and get it into your brain. It's about plausible text. The whole idea of an LLM is to generate text that a human would basically stamp as, that sounds plausible. The thing itself is dumb as a rock because it cannot think, but it's very eloquent. right? Which in itself is not a bad thing, but you need to be aware of it. So you have, like the previous iterations, you have autocomplete on your phone, right? Where it predicts the next word. That has been around for a long time. An LLM is exactly the same thing, but just much more powerful. So it is very good at putting words after each other that have a high probability of making sense. Keep that in mind. That's super important. It looks at a piece of text and then say, oh, what could come after that piece of text? What is the highest statistically probable word after this word? Okay. And how does it know which word comes after which word? Let's not go into too much detail because it would take 2 days. But really, what it is, it was fed an ungodly amount of conversations that you find on the internet. So keep that in mind as well. We'll get back to it. But this is basically, it learned how conversations on the internet usually go, right? So there is a statistical probability of a conversation going a certain way. And if you feed it billions of lines of conversations, it can build that statistical model. There in itself, there's a problem with that, because if you have been in the internet for more than 2 days, you know that there's a lot of bullshit, there's a lot of incorrect information out there, and it cannot discern that. It just is a statistical model of conversations. Of course, if you want to have more details on that, let me know that in the chat. Right? We can have this. We can rip this open and go more into detail. But the analogy that you need to keep in your head, and this is really super important. Think of somebody that is a really good actor. Keanu Reeves. Everybody loves Keanu Reeves. And Keanu Reeves has played a lot of roles. And let's assume he played a role as a police detective. Right? He plays one role and another role. And the more detective roles he plays, the better he gets at playing a detective. Right? The more believable he gets at playing a detective. And at some point, he will be the most realistic detective on TV. But he really is not a detective. And even if it seems like it, and if you ask him about some detective work, he will be able to give you an answer that you would probably accept because he uses the right terms, the right mannerisms, all the things he pretends to be a detective. And the tricky part here is because you, exactly you, are not a detective, you'd probably just believe him. You don't know, right? A real detective would know, but you don't because you're not one. And he pretends to be one. So what do we do with that knowledge? That's kind of important. Keep that knowledge in the back of your head and then use it to your advantage. What LLMs do is happily role play without knowing what they're doing. If you role play doctor with your child that's 5 years old, it's gonna be fun and all that, but really you would not believe the diagnosis. So one step here is that this is super important. Don't ask it to write code. If you're a beginner, that's super important because even though we've been improving those models for the past 10 years now, and because of the way it works, it can solve your homework. It can solve your lead code question because it has seen the solution for lead code questions 5 million times in its training set. But as a software engineer, I'm not getting paid to solve lead code questions all day. And any type of code that is somehow does something in the real world has a much bigger context. And the LLM can't comprehend that, can't really comprehend requirements. And very often the output is just nonsense, or even worse, it is a thing that compiles and has some neat little bugs in there. So what do you actually do? How do you leverage AI in your day-to-day life? You ask it to write code that you do know how to write, but you're just too lazy to do it yourself. Right? Transforming some data. some boilerplate code, having it spit out getters and setters for your classes, stuff like that, where you on a quick glance can identify, oh, okay, this is actually what I wanted to write. Then you're gonna be much quicker. Huh? That's important. What is also important, you need, when you interact with any LLM, you need to talk to it like you're talking to somebody smart. Why is that? Because I mean it can't think, we said, right? So let's get the slides here. I have a little video here where Copilot just uh, invents some method that don't exist. You can see that it looks good, but yeah, this method doesn't even exist because it doesn't have the context. But what I actually wanted to tell you, this is kind of super important. Talk to it like you're talking to an intelligent person. And you would say, hey, why would that even matter? Because it does not understand what you're talking to, like what you're explaining and what you're saying. But it has basically a database of conversations. And smart people talk in a different way than dumb people. And if you like in this example, if you are really talking to it like it is somebody smart, it will look in its dataset from smart conversations. It doesn't know the difference. So if you do the first one, you'll get a shit answer. This is super important. It's not because the thing understands you, but you're prompting it in a different way to look into a different area of its dataset. There's some other interesting things that you might or might not have heard. You can do things like, let's see if we have that here, rate my prompt. That's interesting. Right? Why do we have that? Because the thing is backfeeding on itself. Okay, so people are experimenting with LLMs on an open platform, a discussion platform. They say, hey, I've made the experience. I put in a prompt like this, I put in a prompt like this was good, this was bad. So that thing kind of learned from itself, so it can assess your prompt. So if you put a prompt in and then tell it to rate your prompt, it will give you good information, right? And then you can adapt your prompt and you get better results. Pro tip right here. What else can you do? What it is really good at and really good for is porting snippets of code. You find some Python library and you need it in C#, whatever. Then you can pipe your code in, and it gets like the cursor, for example, or DeepSeek is also very good at code-related problems. It will port small things to almost 100% accuracy. But what you really want to use it for is text generation. This is what it was built for. This is what it's good at, right? Generating plausible text. So where do you actually use it? You use it on your CV, right? You pipe in your CV, you pipe in the job description, and you ask for it to adapt the CV to fit the job description better. You use it on your LinkedIn text. You use it for those kind of tasks, and then you are good, right? That's really what you should use it for. Some other interesting things. What do we have here? Right? Ask for clarification before giving an answer. This is an old trick in the LLM book, but that kind of forces you to give it more context so it gets better. Nowadays, with the thinking model of ChatGPT or even of DeepSeek, it does that for you. Right? What it actually does is basically add that to your prompt and talk to itself for a little bit. It's interesting. But I would still ask for clarification before giving the answer every time, because it extends your prompt, it extends what you put in as context, and because it is kind of a search engine, the more precise your context gets, the better the answer gets. Other interesting things, specifically, that have been, funnily enough, have been studied by a few universities. That is a thing that has been happening for the past 5 years as well, and still is valid. This is not like that's still true. You give it a role to play, right? So you actually say, hey, you are a university professor, you are an experienced software developer, to set the context. That dramatically improves the output. Also giving it examples for input output. So if you want a translation method, right, written by your AI, give it the input and the expected output, because again, that shifts basically the search space into the right direction. Um, a very fun thing, the last 2 points are very fun. It does have a measurable difference in output if you tell it to relax before answering, and we'll talk about it in a second, and tell it that it's super, super important that you get a correct answer. And you would say, okay, well, what the fuck is happening? Well, why is the LLM even concerned? Why would it give me a different answer if I tell it it's super important? Because it can't think. But on the internet, again, it learned from conversations. So if somebody posted a post and said, hey, pretty please, my house is gonna be impounded and my family is gonna die if I don't get this right, the people that answer to that post spend more effort on the answer. So when it looks through its database, it will look for those kind of answers, which are generally better answers. This is how you need to think about it. And if you get that right, then you're in the happy place. Then you win. So don't expect it to actually understand what you're doing. Treat it as a dynamic search engine of past conversations. And if you treat it like that, you get ahead. In the end, is anybody worried that it will take away jobs? It might, right? It might, but not dev jobs and not any kind of like brain work jobs. We do have a shitload of jobs that are stupid and can be automated. It is much less than the media or some Instagram reel or whatever might have you believe, right? Because those are people that are just pushing. So, hey, we can do that job that you pay somebody for with our AI. It turns out it really doesn't. A few years ago, every online portal just implemented an AI chatbot right off the bat. So, hey, we're gonna save money on customer support, what have you. That has gone away. People have learned that it doesn't work that way, right? And you always need to kind of, if you're old enough, you see like those hype waves come and go. At some point, spreadsheet software came around, Excel, Microsoft Excel or whatever, Lotus 123 back in the day, and people were, oh shit, now we have this. We don't need any bookkeepers anymore. Right? We don't need them. We still need them. The bookkeepers got more efficient, but it didn't really replace them. When file sharing happened, if you're old enough, and Napster stepped on the scene, it was like, oh shit, everybody can just download music. Oh, it's the end of the music industry. It wasn't. When VCRs came out, yeah, same thing. Oh, nobody's gonna go to the movies anymore. I mean, nowadays people don't go to the movies because it's a shit experience. It's way overpriced, but that's really not the point I'm trying to make. We can talk about cryptocurrencies. We can talk about Bitcoin, right? For 10, 15 years, like 2012, I think it really started, where it says, hey, it's going to abolish the financial system, right? Banks will quit, capitalism will end. Look around you, nothing has changed. A few people have lost a bit of money, a few people got a shitload of money, but the economic system and capitalism is still here, right? So don't get your titties in a twist. And those are AI tools. They are very useful with what they do best. They generate and transform text. And if you put that into your skill set alongside the actual hardcore programming stuff, you will be not 10 times better or faster, but maybe 1.5 times. And like my peers, my software engineering peers, our clients that we have, we've been playing around with that situation since about 2018 when GPT-2 was released. right? We know how it is going. We know where it's going. It is not exponential, right? You need to understand that the research for that started in the 60s. It got a little bit feasible in the 80s and 90s. It's just recently, in the past 10 years, that we got the computing power to actually put that into practice, thanks to graphics cards. This is really the reason. And it just stepped into the public view about 5 years ago. And people were like, oh, shit, we didn't have nothing. Now we have this whole thing. So it's going to continue that way. And how things are going now 5 years in, it is getting better, not to worry. But in 2 or 3 years, the world is not going to change. You should incorporate it. We are incorporating it now with our students. If you are like considering learning how to build software, don't fear the change, embrace it. Make it part of your toolset. It's just another thing that makes your life easier. It doesn't take away your purpose. If you really want to dig deep into learning and programming with AI, we can have a personal conversation about that. Right? You just need to put a little few words. Let's put AI in the chat, in the comments down below, in the chat, whatever platform you're on. I'll be happy to have a more in-depth conversation. Right? So I've been writing software for 2 decades now. And I was super excited when the news dropped that AI can finally write reasonable code. And maybe I was a little bit too excited back then. But now the dust is settling. We know what we're dealing with. And as it looks now, we are far away from the machines taking over. But it also turns out that having a very stupid but very eloquent coding buddy is really nice if you use it right. So that's the main takeaway here. Learn how those things work. Don't expect any magic. Don't expect it to do the work for you, but see it as a new type of running shoes that actually help you run better. The best running shoes in the world don't do the running for you. And AIs don't do the coding for you at this point. So I'm doing these live streams, my mentoring, all of this because I've met so many people that genuinely want to learn to program and they're being discouraged, right? Not because programming is hard, but there is really no clear guidance on what to do and when to do it. Some people are even scared. Oh, I'm not going to learn how to code because AI is going to do it. Yeah, you lose in that. You just lose. Yeah. And it is extremely hard in this day and age to kind of figure out how to build something on your own. Where do you look? What order of things do I need to do the things? Am I even doing the right things? Is it even market relevant? Is my code even good? Right? And so many people have quit for all the wrong reasons. You don't do it properly. Talk to me, talk to my team. If you want some help, you can always reach out to me. I'm here to help. Right? I'm here to help you. This is what I've been doing for the past 5 or 6 years. I answer all my questions, all my DMs, whatever. Here's my laptop. I sit here all day talking to people, making their life better, making people become good programmers. So if you want that, send me a message, write in the chat, whatever. I'll reach out to you and take AI as it is, right? It is a statistical model that predicts text from a huge, vast database. If you use it like that, you'll have great results. You'll be even quicker. And that's the end of it. So thank all of you for joining here today. If you want any additional, if you just want to talk to me, let me know. Until next time, have